Welcome to our podcast this week. My name is Mike Ferry. This is our podcast number 12. And I was just telling Bryan a moment ago that we are very fortunate at Bryan to have a lot of viewership for our podcast. The last few weeks, we've had 44,000 people per week watching, which is like that's like a university football stadium full of people. So,
Sure.
well, not in Ohio. You guys would have 90,000, that's for sure.
Sure.
No question. So we're going to have Mr. Bryan Ogletree with us. Bryan's been a customer for, 12, 14 years. Tell him where you live and tell him who you work for and how long you've been in real estate, Bryan.
So I live in Dayton, Ohio. So we're an hour north of Cincinnati and an hour west of Columbus, right next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I work for Remax Victory. I've been in business now. This is my 20th year, and May will be 20 years in the business.
20 years. Good for you. That's great. And how long with Remax?
18.
So you've been with one office for 18 years?
This is my second Remax franchise that I've been with. I switched franchises in 2020.
Okay.
But yeah, been with the Remax company since 2008.
Good. So transaction wise, your goal this year is
100.
100. And most of your business, folks, I was very lucky. I got to work very closely with Bryan for about 6 or 7 months, a year and a half ago. And he was a very strong listing agent. What percentage of your business is listings versus buyers?
65% listings, 35% buyers.
And do you work with buyers yourself, or do you have a small team?
I have a small team, so I have one buyer's agent, but the numbers that I have for the 100 of this year, that's just my own personal production. So the goal for myself is 100, and with a buyer's agent, we're looking to get to 115, 120.
Good. So that's a very productive and profitable model that you have.
Yes.
How about administrative staff? How many people do you have to have working with you?
So I have one full-time admin, and I've got my new buyer's agent. We're going to start her in an admin role first. She's going to work for 9 months to a year as an admin before we start training her to be a buyer's agent.
That's great. Good for you. So I keep asking this question of myself, and I asked it of Sabrina yesterday. I asked it of both Marlene and Marissa that I talked to a couple of weeks ago. Is it still at least a little bit of fun having this type of business, or is it all stress?
No, it's a lot of fun.
Tell me why.
I mean, you get to meet somebody new every day. I mean, the objections are the same, the problems are the same, but the way people interact with those problems, I mean, some people rolls off like water off their back. Other people they take offense to problems that come up. But when you can be the calming voice and guide them through the transaction, that's the fun part.
Yeah, somebody used to ask me all the time, you do the same talk every day, 5 days a week for a month at a time, which is what I did for years.
Sure.
And they said, is it fun? I said, well, I don't know if it was fun for the audience, but it was always fun for me delivering. And I suspect it's the same for yourself.
It is, and I'm going to date myself now because now I'm starting to feel old. But I'm working second and third generation clients now.
How old are you?
I'm 48.
Oh, you're young. You're just a child.
I understand, but I feel like I'm talking about like my father more and more every year.
Oh, that's fun. So what part of the business do you do best?
A listing agent by far.
By far?
By far.
What is your sell ratio? And then second, I'll ask, what is your contract signed to presentation ratio?
So contract signed to presentation, we're running just under 80% right now.
Okay.
What was the other question? I'm sorry.
The first question was, what is your sell ratio? What percentage of your listings sell?
So we're still in a very hot market. So we're
Are you?
about 98, yes, 98%. Our inventory is still very low. The only ones that we're not selling, I haven't had an expired listing probably 6 or 7 years.
Wow, good for you.
Yes. Yeah. Now we've had some that have come off the market for different reasons. Death in the family,
Yeah.
couldn't find the house they're looking for, those types of things. But if they're legitimately selling their house, it's going to sell.
So if you're having an 80% conversion rate from appointments to contracts and 98% sell ratio, you have to be very strong in your presentation
Yes.
and very
Luckily,
strong.
I work in a weak market.
I like that. A weak market. Weak competition makes for great superstars.
And that's what I meant. Yes, it's not as competitive as California or Florida or so.
Yeah. But I would say that you must be very strong on your pricing to
Yes.
have that sell ratio. Um, are the sellers very open to that conversation? Are you getting a lot of objections? Do you get a lot of pushback on price?
I think when the market first started to shift, like I said, we're still in a hot market, but their days on market have extended a little bit. And initially, buyer or the sellers were having trouble with that because they wanted yesterday's prices, they wanted yesterday's activity, 20 offers on the table, and that's all gone.
Yeah.
For the most part. So they're warming up to it. We're realizing it's returning more to a normal market, not just seller focused, where you're having to give your firstborn to get the house. So it's been a lot. That's been fun because it's a new objection, it's a new obstacle to handle, but we do pretty well with it.
So totally different line of questioning for a moment. How big is your database?
1,200 people.
And do you get a good percentage of your transactions out of your database?
I do. Yeah, probably about 65-70% of my business comes out of my database.
That's outstanding. And that 65-70% probably is a much more friendly presentation, I would think, than calling an expired or a buy owner.
It is.
Good. So what type of a schedule do you keep for yourself? How many days a week first do you work?
So, I came from a factory background, and if we weren't working 6 days a week, there was something wrong. If there was something wrong with the economy. There was something. So we always worked, 55 hours a week in the factory.
When you say factory background, tell me what you mean.
So I was in manufacturing. When I graduated high school, I went into tool and die work, machining parts. So that was, a normal work week was, 6 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, and then half a day on Saturday. So I do the same thing now. I work. Larry Kozak tells me, nice thing about being a top producing agent is you only have to work a half a day at 7 in the morning till 7 at night.
Half a day.
But I typically work, Monday through Friday. I'll put in a solid 8 to 12 hours. This time of the year, it's busy. We're working 10, 12 hours a day. I enjoy getting up Saturday morning and coming in for a little bit, just kind of buttoning some things up, or a little bit on Sunday evening before I get the week started. So I'm working 5.5 hours, or 5.5 days a week.
Good for you. Obviously, you have to spend some time calling your database and prospecting. How much time do you spend in prospecting?
So the goal is 3 hours a day and 30 contacts per day.
3 hours, 30 contacts. And you've done that for a long time.
Yes. And it's funny because I was actually thinking about this before the call. When I first started coaching, I didn't have a database. That was one of the things that you instilled in every one of us: get that database built up. And I remember coming in at 7 o'clock in the morning, starting to dial right away: expired listings, for sale by owners, just listed, just sold, because I didn't have anybody else to talk to.
Yeah.
And you asked me about am I having fun? Well, yeah, because now I don't have to get the rejection calls of the for sale by owners. I don't have to get the rejection calls of the expireds at 7 o'clock in the morning, or the just listed, just sold calls, because I'm calling people that I've already done business with. And it's been fun. So I don't have to beat myself up to be in here at 7 in the morning anymore.
that is great. So give us an example of an average day. What does your day look like?
So my average day, I'm usually in the office by no later than 8:30. 8:30 is when I'm in the office. We'll determine who we're going to call, whether it's, expired listings. I mean, I still call them. I don't have the pressure of having to build that database through them anymore. But try to set an appointment every day. Get in a door, every single day. Whether it's a listing or a buyer, just try to get out and in the field talking to somebody. The more people you talk to, the more business you're going to do, and the more business you're going to do, the more money you're going to make. So, anyway, we 8 to 11 is when we're prospecting. 11 to 11:45, I meet with the team, find out what's going on, what hot issues they have, what do we need to take care of. 12 to 1, we'll typically have lunch, and then hopefully 1:30 is my first appointment, and then go from there.
And do you average how many appointments, listing appointments per month on average?
We're doing about 10 to 12 listing appointments per month. The goal is to take at least 8 listings per month.
Good. And how have you done in the first January, February, March?
January was really good. February was decent. March, a little slow in March on the listing side, but we've had a lot of buyers this month. So I think we'll still finish with 8 listings this month, but closed and pended, as of right now, we're at 30 or 31 closed and pended deals.
Oh, good for you. That's outstanding.
So we're averaging, that's 10 a month. That's right. We're right on.
Did you have a big carryover from November, December into January?
No, I think we brought 5 over from last year.
That's great. So you generated a lot of new business this year.
Yes.
So far. Most of the country, U.S. and Canada, as you heard from your friends in the Mike Ferry system, had a tough January, February. And it was nationwide, both U.S. and Canada. But Ohio seemed to be subject to not experiencing that. Is that correct?
Our market's different. It's funny because I see the East and West Coast, they go up and down, and it's big swings.
Yeah.
And the Midwest, our prices aren't sexy. We don't have $1 million sales, daily. No. Our average sale price in MLS is $250 to $350. That's kind of the meat of the market for us. So we're not affected by interest rate swings. We're not as much. We're not affected by some of the other contributing factors that may scare other people. So it's not. We don't have a huge tech base. We're kind of just a manufacturing blue collar community, and like I said, we don't have those big swings.
I've always been told that Ohio is, next to Michigan, one of the biggest states for car manufacturing. Mm-hmm. Is that a big business for you folks?
It used to be in our market. We had 6 General Motors plants in and around my market. Wow. And during the Great Recession, they all closed and left. They were consolidated and closed and left. So that hit us a little bit harder than most. But since everybody's rebounded quite nicely, prices have come back up dramatically since that time. So I think it's been pretty good.
So are you I know one mastermind group you're part of. Are you part of a second group also? Or
I am.
And is it an active group?
It is an active group. We have 10 members in that group. I actually started that group I think I was one of the founding members in 2016, left for a short period of time, and then wound up coming. They wanted me to come back, and it's been good.
That's great. That's good. Meet once a week?
Yes, once a week, every Friday.
Good. And is everybody pretty active in the group?
Everybody is active in a group, and I think that's been the key. Is everybody is on either they have similar goals, similar production levels, and that really helps. I mean, where we've struggled historically is when we've had agents that were not at the same level, and we wound up looking back and having conversations with them that we had 3 or 4 years prior, because they were finally catching up to where we were, and that has always been the struggle. But the group that we're in now, we all have similar production goals, similar income goals, and it's really been beneficial.
Well, with your average sales price being a little lower than the national average, what is your average commission check?
8,500 right now.
8,500. And talking to Marissa, who you know,
Hmm.
from Minnesota. Hers is 18,000.
Yes.
And, somebody said to me one day, it's not fair that, Bryan gets 8,500 and I get 6,500, or Bryan gets 8,500 and I get 18,000. And I said, well, what's unfair about it? They're selling the homes that they have available to be sold. And it just so happens that's their average sales price. Has
But
your
quite honestly, you couldn't pay me $18,000 a transaction to live in Minnesota. So
yeah.
it's too cold.
Has your average sales price moved at all much in the last few years?
It's went up, but so has the average sales price.
Yeah.
When I started with you in 2000, I think it was 2013, my average commission check was $2,200.
Wow. 2,200. Yeah.
$2,200. I was doing 35 deals a year. So I was making, I think my year, when I first signed up for coaching, I was making $78,000 a year.
Wow. What a change. What do you
Yeah.
earn this year? What will you earn?
Uh, the goal was at least 750, but like I said, my average commission check right now is tracking at 8,500. So 100 deals at 8,500, that's 850,000.
That's great. And
That'll pay the bills.
your assistants, have they been with you quite a while?
Yes. My transaction coordinator has been with me for 10 years. The second assistant, I just hired her. She just graduated from the real estate program. And where others wanted to put her into the field right away with no knowledge, no experience, no expertise, I said, that's a great way to fail.
That is great.
So I
And
offered her a full-time position.
is that taking a lot of pressure off of you to go and build your business, having two admin?
Yes, because the only thing I have to focus on is being the rainmaker, bringing the business in. They
So,
will process it.
what are your thoughts about so many of the people that build these big teams? 10, 20 showing agents, 5, 7 assistants. I don't get it. I don't
I,
understand it. What are
I,
your thoughts?
I've seen it, but to be completely honest, I've only seen a handful of people actually be able to manage a team like that.
Yeah,
And you coach them all. Um, Bernie, Josh, John Ames, those guys had big teams and were able to be extremely productive with it. But
yes.
when I see, I mean, we have a team in my office, and I hope she's not watching. She has 7 people on her team, and I'm
Yeah,
out producing her right now with myself.
it's amazing. Somebody said to me, what is the advantage of building a big team? I said, well, if they're productive and you're careful with your expenses, your margin isn't very big, but it's large because of your transaction count. And I said, but in most cases, we want to do the 100 deals to satisfy the ego more than the bank account. And
My biggest thing is who are they actually working with, right? The
yeah,
relationship that I have with my clients, they know who they're working with, they know what they're going to get. When you hand them off to a buyer's agent or a listing specialist or somebody else like that, they don't. They came to you. For me, anyway. I mean, maybe I'm thinking small and saying that, but I'd rather take care of that client the best I possibly can. They know what they're going to get with me, and then the staff can process it and do behind the scenes stuff and keep me
that's
busy.
good. How long has your showing agent been with you?
She just started.
So you just have the one and she just started.
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't
I had a
she?
buyer's agent. She was fantastic. She left unexpectedly, and I wasn't prepared for that.
Okay.
So it kind of hit me really, honestly, at the wrong time. There's never a good time, but she was fantastic. She's doing good on her own. Um, so hats off to her, I guess, for stepping out and doing that on her own.
So with your experience in real estate, is there a part of the business that is more difficult for you, or maybe that you don't care for as much?
Um, I sometimes working with a new buyer, new seller, that doesn't bother me. A new buyer, it does.
Yeah,
I do struggle with that. I'm analytical by nature and under pressure driver, and I don't have a lot of patience. So that's my weak point.
so a newer customer that is inexperienced in real estate,
Sure.
on the buyer side can be very frustrating.
Sure.
Yeah. So are you going to be taking and shuffling those people off to this buyer's agent?
That's the plan.
Good. Give you more time to enjoy life and to list property.
Correct.
So how many listings will you take this year?
This year, the goal was to take 80 listings.
80?
Mm-hmm.
That's outstanding. Yeah, if you do 8 a month, you're right. You're right on track. No question about it. What part of the business do you like best? That if you could do this part 8 hours a day, you'd be in heaven.
I like presenting a new listing presentation. I like getting into a house and doing the listing presentation.
I felt, people used to ask me that question. I used to say, anything that gets me a listing presentation, I enjoy a lot.
Sure.
Because it's, and you and I have talked about this, that's when you have a chance to perform,
Right.
to show them what you can do that your competition either forgets about or doesn't understand or won't do.
And I think that's the difference between a listing specialist and a buyer specialist. The buyer specialist, you're opening a door and letting them look at the property. There's not a whole lot of selling going on there.
That's right.
On the listing side, you're selling your marketing strategy, you're selling yourself, your business, what you've done, how you can help them. I mean, it's a whole different skill set.
Yeah, it's tough, no question about it. Well, the good news is you've done it for what, 20 years?
20 years in May.
20 years. And any vision of slowing down or moving to, you're young, so you know.
My first coach said you can rest when you're dead. I tell my clients I've got 12 more years to do this. Realistically, I could be done in 7. I don't know. It's as long as I'm having fun, I'll continue to do it. The minute it stops being fun, that's when I'm going to quit.
Well, if you can have fun, enjoy the experience of working with buyers and sellers, and be profitable, it's pretty hard to beat, isn't it?
It's hard to beat. Nobody else is going to pay me this kind of money. I remember when I was in the factory and our plant manager managed 750 employees, and his pay. Now this was back in 2006, 2007 time. He was making $350,000 a year as the plant manager.
Wow.
Six years of college, traveled all over the country from plant to plant to get to the position he's in. And I thought, man, what would it be like to make that kind of money?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, as your business grows and develops, you can compare yourself to other professions. And I say that the best profession of all is real estate because you have total control of your time.
Yeah.
And you really have total control of what you say.
That's a fact.
Bryan can say his presentation this way and Bob can say it this way, and they both get the same good result because of the power of their presentation itself. Do you still role play in practice at all?
I do, not as much as I used to. I used to do it 10 times per week. And I've kind of gotten, yes. Yeah. I used to do it twice a day because inevitably somebody would flake out or something would come up. So I was guaranteed to at least have somebody to role play with every single day, if not 2. But now, like I said, the conversation is more friendly conversation with past clients and center of influence, people I've talked to, done business with that know me, that it's a different kind of conversation. I don't know. It's one that you can really role play a whole lot of. So
yeah, you might recall a couple of years ago at the retreat, I had Tony Smith on the stage with me, and I asked Tony, I said, did you role play and practice much? And he went 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah.
First of all, most agents don't role play and practice at all, ever.
Sure.
And the good ones will do it, 30 minutes, 45 minutes in the morning. And then some will do it.
COVID ruined a lot of good agents, I feel. I mean, it was, if you had a sign in a lockbox, you were getting a check. That's all it took. So that's, it spoiled a lot of us. And now we're getting back to a normal market, and, we're having conversations about pricing. We're having conversations about price reductions. We're having conversations about a number of things that we didn't have to have over the last 2 or 3 years, or 4 years.
So last question.
Mm-hmm.
What part of what I teach and my coaches teach is the hardest for you to follow?
I don't think any of it's hard to follow. I think
Okay.
I think the system is very easy. It's not a hard system to follow. Um, prospecting's been is always a challenge. It's
Yeah.
sometimes getting that first call in is the challenge. Um, but it's a very simple system if you work it.
Well, my attitude has always been the same. I get challenged all the time, and you can appreciate this. Are you still teaching that same old stuff? I said, yes. Well, how come you haven't updated it? I said, because it works.
Sure. Yeah.
And I said, it works when the agent does.
Yeah.
So if we were doing a seminar, you and I together, and we had 100 people in the room, and I said to you, what is the one message you want to leave for these people in terms of helping them someday be where you are? What would that message be?
Every professional, everybody that's at the top of their game, they didn't start there. They started at the bottom, but they had somebody help them, whether they admit it or not. And it always goes back to coaching or having somebody show you the ropes and show you the way to get there.
Yeah.
I said your system's easy, and it is an easy system. It's a simple system, but it does require you to put in the effort. And your seminars, and I've told you this before, you're just like going to the eye doctor. You're never cured, but you always see a little bit better when you leave.
Well,
So
that is a great example.
yeah,
Thank you. Well, if I said to an audience, we're at the end of our time together, stand up and give Bryan as the round of applause he deserves, you would get a standing ovation. But since it's just one person you're talking to,
hey, thank you, sir.
that's the best I can do. But
You're
you know
fine.
what? Even though you can't get a standing ovation on a podcast, you can certainly get a feel for the fact that people that watch the things that you do and what you say can make
Sure.
a big difference in their lives.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say congratulations in advance on 100 transactions.